Hello again. Okay, it's Friday afternoon. It'll probably be the last stream for a little while. And we're going to be talking about meta progression. I have some disjointed thoughts about this that I need to organize and then expand on. Hey, Sinistella. Let's get these. So this is done. This is the stuff I need. Okay, let's put this in here. I had a thought already at some point about meta progression. Meta progression. Hey, Perinox. Wow, from no message to subbing to typing a message, we're rapidly progressing. Yeah, welcome. At a sense, and you actually went live. Yeah, I try to stream at the same general times every day. Of course, there's some variance, but yeah. But howdy, how you doing? And thanks again for the sub earlier. Yeah, my general schedule. So right now it's about 1 p.m. for me. I try to stream from about realistically like 8:30. There we go. 8:30 to about like 12, and then 1 to 4 or so. 8,000 daggers. So yeah, we're in the 1 to 4 section now. And then I think this should be an interesting stream. I do want to ponder this, and I want to figure out kind of where this is going. I really like the fluid nature of working on challenge mode so far. Like, just what even led to this. It's just been a fun process. Hey, Kevin. So I'm hoping that the meta progression stuff is also a fruitful experience. So let's get rid of this. A couple people have mentioned wanting this, by the way. It hasn't just been one person. So I want to just collect some thoughts and then, yeah, figure out how I feel. So several people have asked about meta progression. I originally wanted something sort of like Slay the Spire, in that there's very, very shallow progression and then mostly skill-based expression after that. However, I don't really think Skeleseller fits into that category. It's an incredibly laid-back game to begin with. Then we add in some challenge, but we don't really have a built-in way for you to overcome that challenge, which may make players feel like there's no reason to keep playing if they don't find their initial runs fun. I just found you in your work and game intriguing. Keep an eye out for you after your break. Yeah, cool. Glad to hear it. Hey, Alex. Escaped the office early. Apparently, I didn't get the memo because I was there basically by myself. I mean, look, the weather today is fantastic. And you said it's like a 10-minute walk, so I wouldn't feel bad about making a commute, I guess, in that case. But yeah, having to be there in the office with no one else there, that might be a little different. Also, hang on one second. Engage privacy mode. Let me check something really fast over here. This should not take very long, less than 30 seconds for sure. Okay, let me just turn this down a bit. All right, my mic hopefully will be a little bit better now. I think it was sounding good, but now it should be a little less loud. Yeah, so I'm leaning toward this being a good idea, but there's somewhere that I wrote that I said, I don't want this. So where did I write that? Meta progression. That can't be the only place I wrote this down. Yeah, it was fine. Got to go through the store and buy a couple things. So it kind of worked out, yeah. Rogue Light? I don't think it's a major need. It won't address an individual round of challenge mode. Huh. Oh, I wrote it right here. I generally don't like the idea of reducing difficulty via some persistent perk tree since I feel like it cheapens the difficulty of the game. However, if you want this, I think the simplest idea be an experience bar for each specialization where each level unlocks +1 random perk at the beginning. That is one way of doing this. Some people like the customization, the feeling of progression. Yeah, so I think my thoughts are at least consistent on this stuff. Let me copy paste this. What I had written originally on the topic was this. And yeah, if we were going for a difficulty focused game, then it would cheapen the game. But there are ways to achieve both goals, e.g., allowing the meta progression stuff up until very hard difficulty, then disallowing it. I'll just say allowing the meta progression stuff for any difficulty level except for the maximum. Likely moving up around the Portland area, potential for the Olympia area. We're in Sacramento and sick of the heat. Yeah, I do not like heat. I think the Pacific Northwest is like a paradise. I am just so impressed by the plant life, and I don't mind the weather. Some people are bothered by the lack of sun in the wintertime. That doesn't bother me at all. And the summers are starting to get hotter here. But yeah, in general, there's just a lot of natural beauty. And also kind of interesting terrain. I think any mountainous region can have interesting terrain. But where I grew up was kind of flat. And it's kind of weird, like always having your vision blocked by a tree line and not by like atmospheric conditions. Just kind of strange. Okay, so I think the difficulty with this stuff is going to be figuring out how the average person will play through this stuff. So my general conclusions so far and my questions so far, how will this impact the difficulty selection? Will we have a progression per specialization? Or is there an uber progression? I prefer meta flow to add more powerful perks to the pool versus just making it easier to obtain existing stuff. Yes, that's kind of like what Slay the Spire did, although I think power is arguable for that case. But yeah, I think it's a question we can add. How much should the meta stuff change the start of the run versus the potential for the run? And is it fun at all times? Does the pacing get crazy? Anyway, my general conclusion so far is worth writing some of these things down. Where is it? Meta progression, like rationale for meta progression. It makes the game, it makes challenge mode more casual, which is more aligned with regular mode. 2 is that it adds replayability by rewarding the player. Well, by potentially rewarding the player. How are we rewarding the player? How are we rewarding the player with these bonuses? Is it from earning gold, winning, playing, etc.? It adds replayability by rewarding the player. And yeah, can you get this by repeating runs? Do we encourage variety? Do we change the difficulty levels based on how many like starting perks you get? Or do we just rebalance them based on what's possible to have? Or do we do nothing and let the player figure it out? And then what are what are the concrete tasks we have to do to make this a reality? Saving is up there. All right, adds replayability by rewarding the player potentially even for unsuccessful runs. Making progress toward a greater goal is usually a nice hook. Acquire Instagram, acquire WhatsApp. It took me a few of those list items to realize what you're getting at. Every technique. All right, I think there's some other things we can extract from this. Reposition, maybe they're generic difficulty modifiers, time limit, objective, etc. They can stack on top of the constraints. Yeah, so I'll write some like basic ideas here. I wonder if we should just make a new tab for this. It'd be nice to have headers for those tabs. Yeah, you know what? Let's make a new document tab. Maybe this is how I should do all of this stuff. Add a progression scratch. So delete this stuff from here. Put it in here and make these into proper headers now. General conclusions, questions, ideas, and just random scratch stuff. Yeah, I like this organization. Answer the questions. And we can, yeah, sure. Okay, so idea that we could do is the objective and time limit could always be easily changed. I guess some aspects of difficulty could always be easily changed. Objective, time limit, income multiplier, enemy strength multiplier. Yeah. Progression comes from beating a new combination. Yeah, sure. Progression could be in the form of points and beating a new specialization plus difficulty could give more points than beating one you've already done before. Honestly, I think the easiest is to just base it on gold earned. And I think that's what we should start with because it's the easiest. So I want to explore that. Base on gold earned. Exploration YLO. All right. Just earning money should be enough. First milestone should be easy enough to achieve. Yeah, I think that's another important question. It's just like, what does your very first run look like in terms of progression? I want the first run to feel like it gave you something, especially because the first run probably would have lasted 45 minutes or close to it. I expect a lot of people are going to lose. Also, another quick question, I guess, is does quitting a run let you keep the gold? I think it should, but we need to mark in a save file that you abandoned it. No, probably not, actually. And then we need to write that down too. Make sure save files don't mess with this. You shouldn't be able to load from a save file, finish the run, then reload and finish again. Should probably have a concept of which runs you've gotten rewards for already. Yeah. All right, what else do we have here? Okay, if we do this, make it obvious how to progress. Vampire Survivors of the North Star. Game is about making broken builds. Characters and meta progression were just existing stats. Okay, perhaps early games should have ways of getting a bunch of items. This is where meta progression come in. How explosives for playtesters. So we need save stuff. The savings up there. I think half of the fun is unlocking stuff. So playtesters should probably have this data get saved. And I think this is here. Games about making broken builds every time. It was fun and mindless. Should probably fill the same niche, even though it's a different genre. I like this idea of games inspiring you, or really any piece of media inspiring you without being a direct inspiration. So like if you play Tetris and then you're like, oh, I want to make a match 3 game. I think that's very direct inspiration. It's like both sort of puzzly kinds of games, or you're just kind of moving a cursor around and then swapping some stuff. But imagine Tetris inspiring something like, I don't know, like Myst. Like that's not a direct correlation. It just might have gotten you thinking in a certain way. So in that sense, like Final Fantasy 1 was kind of a direct inspiration for Idle Ascendants. And yet I kind of think of Vampire Survivors as being, this is pretty direct, but I think of Vampire Survivors as inspiring Skeleseller. And I think of this as being indirect in my mind because Vampire Survivors isn't the same genre. And it's got some similar concepts. I guess you could call them both roguelikes or roguelites. But that's more of a mechanic category than a genre. I don't know. Kind of blurred lines there. Anyway, I think we've filed all of these things that we need to. So let's think of what's the simplest incarnation of this system. And I think it's you get bone points. You get bone points based on how much gold you earned running your business. You spend points to unlock like special perks, and you can start the run like plus X workers, plus X adventurers, plus X power, etc. You can start the run with any number of those perks to make the game easier for yourself. Actually, another thing that's kind of nice about this if we do this is that this will increase the pace of the beginning of the game too. If we do indeed give players a leg up from the rewards, then it would increase the pace at the beginning of a run, which would probably help out quite a lot. In fact, that thing about start with a DPS adventurer, that could just be a perk that we change to. Any quality of life feature could turn into that. I just made a change today where you are guaranteed to start with the rogue, mage, or archer. We could turn this into a perk, like a meta perk, to guarantee that a run starts smoothly. So I think one of the big questions is, what's the point of all of this from the player perspective? Is it, and that's how will this impact the difficulty? So like, it's possible that they beat very hard on some specialization. But wouldn't that feel like they're just done at that point? I don't know. Well, anyway, let's keep looking at this so far. So you get points based on how much gold you earn. You spend points to get perks. You start the run with some of those perks. That's it. That's the system, basically. So let's think about that. If we're basing this on gold earned with no multipliers, then playing on higher difficulties wouldn't be incentivized. So we should just add a multiplier for that. Yeah. In fact, we can write this as like working system, or maybe leaning toward. So this, copy paste down to here, and say that gold, you get bone points based on, it's going to be like gold times difficulty multiplier. We reviving Skele points. Oh man, we could call them Skele points. Do we revive the term Skele points? Is this replacing difficulty selection? Should it not be possible to win without first farming up some of the meta? So my original thought was you have easy, medium, hard, and very hard. And these three would allow for meta progression stuff. And then the fourth one wouldn't. So technically you could beat this at any time, I guess. Although I don't know if we're going to stick with that. But that was the idea, at least. So like maybe you start out playing easy. Your very first run is on easy mode. Or maybe you feel pretty confident you're on medium mode or something. Maybe hard isn't even unlocked and very hard isn't unlocked. And then maybe you struggle a bit with medium. You start working up through the meta progression. You make it easy enough to win. So then you beat hard mode eventually. And you're like, you know what? I want a real challenge. And then we take out all the training wheels from you. Or maybe we just limit how many you can have. Or we just put an achievement in for beating it without any of the meta progression things. So I'm not totally sure yet. That's part of what we're going to explore this afternoon. So we have this now. Gold times difficulty multiplier. I think that's pretty important. Unlocking new modes is also meta progression. Yeah, that's another thing we could do too. Like, should we have you unlock specializations? Should we have you unlock difficulties and specializations? If so, should those happen automatically or with Skele points? Compared to Doom, I think the quirky names are fun personally. I think as long as it's clear where you roughly stand in terms of difficulty, I think any of those systems can work. Just level 1, 2, 3, 4, easy, medium, hard, like, you know, ear, bone, femur. Like we could do whatever. Ear, bone. I don't know the names of all the bones. Okay, so let's talk about. I like the idea of trimming down what you'd have access to at first. Also, we could make it so that the specializations themselves are a form of meta perk. I guess it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Either you make these be unlocked, or you choose them from a perk drop down or something. I guess it doesn't really make a difference. But yeah, I think what we should do is we should start you with maybe just 3 of these. And we just pick whatever sounds the most fun. Maybe we have people vote or something. Maybe farming, adventuring, and garbage enjoyer. Those sound pretty good. So we start you with those. And yeah, actually, I kind of like this idea. So leaning toward, you only start with farming, adventuring, and garbage enjoyer specializations and slowly unlock the others. Oh, you know another idea? Someone suggested this a while ago with a different game, but I mentioned that Kirby Air Ride did this. Kirby Air Ride had the unlock. Maybe if I just search for this, would be good. Images. Yeah. This. Yeah. We could do this. Can I just copy a link to this? Open image in new tab. I don't want to paste the image in. I don't want to do that. I just want to copy a link to it. So ideas. You could have an unlock board like in Kirby Air Ride. And I'll just put a reference link in there. So again, for those who've never seen this, the way that this worked is all the colorful squares are squares you've already unlocked. I'm not sure what the difference between green and red was. But anyway, the colorful ones are the ones you've already unlocked. So this one, glide more than 30 minutes. You must have already done this, and you won Meta Knight by doing this. And then these like lighter gray ones are ones that are adjacent to one you've unlocked. So you can see what the objective is, but you haven't gotten it yet. And then the dark gray ones, you can't see what they are at all. You need to first, so like in order to unlock this one, you need to first complete either this or this, and then complete like one of the adjacent ones. And then you'll be able to see what this is, and you still need to complete it. But sorry, that's not actually how that works. You could just complete the objective without knowing what it was. You could glide for 30 minutes and get the first like square on the board. So anyway, that's how that system worked. And it's kind of cool. It's like a visual way of representing how far along you are toward completion. And it kind of lets you go through this tree however you want. And you might accidentally uncover some of them. I don't know if we need this sort of thing, although maybe that's worth asking as well. So how do you spend your Skell points? Also, I think we spelled it like that, but I think I asked him later that we should spell it like that. How do you spend your Skell points? Do you just pick the thing you want? Or is it somewhat random? Is it like Kirby Air Ride? Okay, so what do we have so far? So yeah, you start with only some number of specializations, and probably you can only go up to medium difficulty maybe. Starting options. Specializations, you only start with those. Difficulties, you only start with easy/medium available. And easy, we intend to be easy enough for like most, reasonably competent players to be able to beat. So if you can't beat it at first and you get a little bit of the meta progression, you'll definitely be able to beat it. But I think the hard-hitting questions here, I think this one for sure. So let's analyze this for a bit. So how will this impact the difficulty selection? Will we have a progression per specialization, or is there an uber progression? So if we had progression per specialization, then I feel like it wouldn't be as satisfying as unlocking rewards for all specializations. So I think that answers that question. You get it for everything. Do we change difficulty levels based on how many starting perks you get? Or do we just rebalance them based on what's possible to have? Or do we do nothing? So let me write this down too. Unlocking points or unlocking perks. I should maybe call these meta perks. We need to come up with a name for those too, I guess. What do we call meta perks? Modifiers? Can these be negative? Like, what if you want to intentionally hamper your run, I guess? I don't want to give the player too many options, though, because I think then it can be overwhelming. This is one of the things I think about already. Like, having a specialization, I think, is cool and fun and straightforward. I think everyone can understand what this is. Then picking a difficulty, again, pretty straightforward. I don't think it's cool anymore. I think it's just a difficulty. But then if we start adding like, okay, now customize your run with like 40 different options, you'd be like, yeah, that's a bit too much. Hey, Ocleus. Skell points. Yeah, Skell points. So the reason I'd originally opted for Skell points is because it sounds like skill. But if I type this out, you would pronounce it Skella points and not Skell like skill. So that was at least the rationale behind naming them Skell points. But I don't think it's a very funny pun, so I kind of think we should just go with something else maybe. Yeah, SKEL could work, I think. It'd still be clear how you pronounce it. Anyway, can these be negative? I don't know the answer to this stuff yet, but I still haven't finished writing this down. Start the run. So you spend points on these, and you meta perks are available for any specialization. I should say are not locked to a specialization. That way the rationale for this is it feels better to make progress for everything at once. Bonefits. Oh, man, that's really bad. It's So it's so bad. Oh man. All right. I don't think I'm gonna go with that, but I think it's hilarious. And hilarity is a big reason for why I go for certain things. So I'll let it simmer for a bit. But yeah, so how will this impact difficulty selection? All right, I answered part of that. Do we change the difficulty levels based on how many starting perks you get? Or do we just rebalance them based on what's possible to have? Or do we do nothing? Yeah, so how does the meta progression system intersect with the difficulty? So here are some overall styles. One, we balance the game with a certain number of like meta perks in mind, e.g. easy mode could be zero perks needed to win. Medium mode, and I'm really simplifying this, but 10 perks needed to win, and so on and so forth. Hey, John. Have you worked on other games? Or is this your first game? I have worked on other games, yeah. The last major one I released was Botland, which is unfortunately not playable now. But this took 5 years to make. This is a game where you wrote scripts for robots and then sent them into battle, and they just followed your script. So like if missiles will hit them, fire missiles, and then you get to see them play out their battles. It was an online PvP game, and it was nuts. So yeah, this one is much smaller in scope. It's single player. Our option 2 would be we change the difficulty dynamically based on how many perks you give yourself. So e.g. easy mode is less than 5 perks, medium mode is 5 to 9 perks, and hard mode is 10 plus perks. I don't think I like that. Option 3 is we make it so that any difficulty can be beaten with 0 perks, and the player can scale the difficulty to their wishes based on how many perks they choose. So basically, in this option, and this is what I think is risky with this, is the game starts at its hardest, and every perk you get chips away at that difficulty until it's like easy peasy. Some people probably find that fun, and this is essentially how like Rogue Legacy worked this way. You start at level 1, and the enemies are as hard as they're going to be. And then every upgrade makes the game easier in some way. Some of them are pretty minor. You get plus 10 health, you're probably still going to die. But you end up getting plus 100 health, you're not going to die anymore. You get plus 5 armor, or plus 20 power, or something like that. Are there any other high-level options we can go with here? So balance it based on you having a certain number of perks. Change the difficulty dynamically. Just don't balance it at all based on how many perks, and you just keep making it easier. I like the way you're planning and working on this game. Yeah, I like this process. I think it's very important to sort out why we do things with game design. Otherwise, you just sort of haphazardly throw things out, and they might not be solving a problem. And I think the only time it's kind of okay to do that is for polish, or for like maybe a tiny bit for fun stuff. But yeah, for polish, it's like, oh yeah, try adding a shader there. See if it looks good. Oh, it didn't look good? Okay, don't do it then. That's fine. But yeah, I don't think you should do that for game mechanics. Like, hey, maybe we need crafting. Like, no, crafting's a gigantic thing to add to a game, and it might make a game worse. Skeleton knowledge increasing learning and logistics. All right, I'm just gonna write this stuff down, but I am probably going with something simple here. Also, I did not give Codex credit for this. There. All right, anything else that we have here? So what else could we do? Meta progression impacting difficulty or vice versa. So let's just pick some game that exists. Let's say Super Mario Bros. And now let's say we added some perks to it, and you can get like faster run speed, or you start with a fire flower or something. I guess probably the game difficulty would stay the same. So it'd probably be this. Maybe as you get more perks, we unlock higher modes. All right, well, if let's say we only had these 3 options, which one sounds best? I guess I need to answer a different question first. So which of these sounds best? Not totally sure yet, but there's a potential problem I could see, which is player starts challenge mode, has fun. Player gets meta perks and starts doing higher difficulties. Player gets enough meta perks where they beat the highest difficulty. And then player wants to still have like some challenge, but hasn't beaten like 6 other specializations. This might not be a problem. It's not even definitely a problem. But yeah, what I'm concerned with is you are like, oh man, I really like farming specialization. So you play on easy, you get some more perks. You play on medium, you get some more perks. You play on hard, you eventually beat very hard, and you've unlocked, let's say, 12 perks. Now you go over to adventuring, and you're like, oh, I can just beat very hard right from the get go. Is that a problem? I mean, nothing says you have to use the extra perks. So essentially, like, what if here's an example of this. Let's say all you unlocked was a single thing. Start with X gold. So as you get whatever, 2 perk points, you put it into this, and now you get start with 100 gold. And then you get 20 perk points and you start with 200 gold. And maybe there's a curve for this. And now 50 will get you to your next level and 100 will get you to your next level. But eventually there's going to be some number here that says start with, let's say, 1500 gold. At this point, your objective is only to collect a certain amount of gold. So your objective might be like 7,500 gold to win. You're starting with 1,500 of that. So you're already 20% of the way toward the goal. And you now start your run with enough gold to just buy all the stuff you want. So it's like, okay, you've probably trivialized the game at this point. Is that a problem? Like, don't we just want you doing broken things? Isn't that what the fun of the game is? So doesn't this make it feel like you've fully broken the game? I'm very hard with absolutely nothing else. Yeah, I do think that should probably be an achievement, but I also kind of wonder, like, would it be fun? Because wouldn't it feel slow and everything? 2 key things to do: allow the player to toggle them, gate unlocking these behind different specializations and or specific achievements. Yeah, I guess that's another thing I hadn't thought of here. I think it probably should just be based on gold, but it could be based on something else here. Should we have specific achievements or challenges to get more perk points instead of just collect X gold? It could be complete a run, beat farming mode on medium. I think a lot of these would just turn into beat a certain mode, beat adventuring mode with only 3 perks, with at most 3 perks, on hard with at most 3 perks, something like that. And CG part, yeah. I guess that's true. Some lunatic will be out there just has a good idea. Yeah. So at this point, the player could just turn off some of the meta perks. You can still use gold that you could each run to buy them, but unlocking them could maybe be gated in another way. Yeah, Kevin suggested that you could use gold to outright buy what you could also have obtained via these achievement, like, mini challenges. All right, I still need to think about this though, because like somehow you're gonna get perks, and I'm still not sure which of these I like best. So if we ignore this as a problem, does that even change things? I guess I guess it's a problem no matter what we do, because each one of these would have an issue, right? It's that you switch specializations I guess this whole scenario is summed up as the player beat specialization X on very hard. Should they struggle to beat specialization Y on very hard? And again, this is should. This is intentionally worded this way. Like from a game design perspective, do we want that to be difficult? So as an example here, in a classic RPG, let's say you load up World of Warcraft and you start on a warrior and you're going to begin at level 1 and you're going to work your way up to level 60. And I'm just talking about classic WoW, let's say. When you eventually say, oh, now I want to start a mage, you're a level 1. You don't start higher level than that. However, you could have some money on your warrior that lets you gear up your mage a little bit better. So there's like a minor boost to any subsequent character you make. But there's no inherent game boost to it. It's not like, well, I got my warrior to level 60, so now all of my characters are level 60. So the creators of WoW determined that you should have the same progression mostly. And yeah, you can only speed it up with items. Now, they later changed that design. There were like heirlooms and there were like account bound items and whatever else. And yeah, so they did end up changing that. But I wonder what we should do for this. Is there a way to get the banner at the top of the chat about minimum cheer to go away? I don't know why it bothers me. There should be a way. If you click it, does it say dismiss? Because sometimes you have to click it and it says like hide for yourself or something like that. So I think my concern is that, I should just write this down. I think my concern is that a hypothetical player will be farming very hard on very hard and then feel like there's nothing more to do because they've trivialized the other difficulty or the other specializations, the other challenges. The placeholder does not go away on its own, just so no one gives anything in. Oh wow. Also, hey Mira. How do other games do this? I guess they just kind of keep increasing the difficulty. Oh, Miro, thanks for gifting a sub. And showing how that banner works, I guess. Yeah, very kind of you. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. I don't have it on mine. I just have the chat pop out showing. So I know what you're talking about, though, for this stuff, but I don't see it. That could be because I'm streaming. It could be because of the chat pop out thing. Banner's still there. Can I just turn off cheering, I wonder? Yeah. Maybe I need to buy bits. No, you don't need to do that. Also, I assume that if you were to do that, it'd be cheaper in September. So the only way around this is by having dynamic difficulty, which is option 2. As in the difficulty scales based on how many things you put as benefits for yourself. How would I feel about this? Keeps getting harder in some way. Maybe plus 100 gold objective for every extra perk you take. I've always seen meta progression as a system to push the player further along than what they could do previously. But here it feels like it's just lowering the difficulty, which doesn't feel like new progression. So new progression, I mean, it doesn't have to feel like new progression. The meta progression here is basically just that it's persistent across your runs. So in that sense, you are unlocking new stuff and it is making the game easier. I think this is kind of as I mentioning, like we have to pick one of these systems. We can't have all of them. Or I guess we could, but then players would probably be confused of like, what am I doing here? I'm like scaling up the difficulty. I guess we could potentially accommodate that. Yeah, we could also add negative modifiers. Thanks, Elijah. All right, did that change the banner? It wouldn't make it go away. I guess it would just populate it. It also had negative modifiers so that the player could increase the difficulty as they please. This makes the game more of a sandbox. So what's the point of this from the player perspective? Like, I assume a player would want to beat... I assume that a player who beats Spec X on very hard would want to beat more specializations on very hard. But presumably, yeah. So is that what the goal is? I mean, this is kind of, when I think of other games like this, I'm playing Slay the Spire right now still, and I got to Ascension 20 on one character, and I beat that. And now I have my like second highest character is on like Ascension 16 or something. So it is kind of a goal for me to beat it, and it's very difficult for me. And there is no way to make it easier other than player knowledge. There is no like, well, you do enough runs, you're going to get plus 100 gold at the beginning or something. Like, that doesn't happen. So the only way you improve is player knowledge after like the first couple hours of the game. And that's fine. That's Slay the Spire, though. I don't think that's probably the route I should go for this. Since you're taking a break and I plan to actually tell chat my birthday this year, I guess I got to do it early. It's on the 6th. September 6th? I shall write this down. Write down all of the dates. But happy early birthday. I shall try to add it to my calendar. So I think this comes back down to what are the goals of this? What are the goals of meta perks? And I think it's replayability and breaking the game even further. Oh, thanks again, Elijah. Best progress so far. I'm going to buy bits and get to the bottom of this. Well, so the way that bits work is 1 bit is 1 penny. So if you cheer 100 bits, it's exactly equivalent to me getting $1 from Twitch. But the trick is that you don't buy 100 bits for $1. You spend like, I don't know, $1.70 to get $1 to give me, or I'm making up a number here. I don't know what it actually is. So that's where they get you. But then the bits themselves, it's just money. Thanks again. So you're incentivized to spend them as soon as you buy them because of inflation. So these are the goals, I guess. I guess that means that it's okay if you trivialize the game for yourself. The other thing we could do here is a change to this too. Thanks again, Elijah. I'm guessing you bought like 500 bits at once. What did I say here? Change the difficulty dynamically based on what you give yourself. Option 4, not super unique compared to the ones above, but like you only get credit when you beat the difficulty under a, like while using under a certain number of perks. Oh wow, Mitch, thank you. Does this fix the banner? And do I take first place? I need to win right now. I don't know about fixing the banner. I think it's always going to be there. Yeah, you get a badge. You are now first, presumably. I can't actually see it right now. But yeah, I think it's like what Kevin said. You probably need some custom CSS to turn it off. It's a monetization feature. I think Twitch wants it on. And I don't think I can even disable cheering in my channel unless I contact Twitch. Let me take a look. Monetization, cheering. Minimum bits to cheer. Yeah, I can't turn it on. Oh, I could turn off pinned cheers though. It doesn't tell you what this feature does. I also didn't click the button. Maybe this fixes it. Well, okay, let me click this and see what happens. So now if you refresh, does it hide that thing? Because I'm fine with disabling this. I don't know what pinned cheers are though, so I don't know if that does anything. Cheering will continue until morale improves. Yeah, what is this? Twitch pinned cheers. Introducing pinned cheers. Oh, I know what this is. This is different from that other thing. I'm gonna enable this then. Yeah. I think you can choose your message to get pinned to chat. That disables the ability for chatters. Well, anyway, it's in this thing. I'm not gonna. Yeah, the most recent cheer will automatically be pinned to the top of chat. Yeah. Anyway, that's fine. I'm okay with this. I don't think you can set the minimum so high that you can't cheer that amount. Minimum bits to cheer must be less than or equal to minimum bits to pin. You can set it to $1,000. Okay, that's pretty much turning off cheering, I guess. But yeah, I'll just leave this as is. Anyway. Okay, so what would I find fun with this? So personally, I want the pace of the beginning of the run to feel a little faster. I would probably want to start with a couple of adventurers. I think I'm leaning toward option one. Yeah. Like this. Thanks again. Yeah, I'd probably want to start with a couple of adventurers. And I don't think I would want the run to get too easy. Unless, not even unless. I just don't think I want it to get too easy. I almost wonder if what we should do here is have some like something along the lines of dynamic difficulty. So like option 2B could be something where it's pretty much option 2. I was going to say, what if there was a rolling objective? So like the first 5 minutes of the game, it was just earn 100 gold. And then the next 5 minutes, it would be like earn 200 gold. And then maybe the next 5 after that might be 350 or something. And we figure out whatever kind of curve you could fit. And then what we could do is for every perk you pick beyond this, we could just raise these numbers a little bit. So like all of these could be plus 10 or something. And now you have to earn a little bit more money. I don't know. Hey, Murdo. Maybe that's a small win. It is a small win. And Twitch got more of your money. As did I. Thank you, Mint. No, the combined amount of money you all just gave, it's very hard for me to estimate what this is because a gifted sub is, I think, half of whatever Miro paid. So anyway, this is probably like $2.50, and then 350, 450, 550, 850. Oh, I didn't even realize it was 300. Thank you. And then 1850, 1950, and $20.50 thereabouts. Yeah, that's a proper dinner. Yeah, I think I'm leaning toward option one. Yeah, so we balance each difficulty with a certain number of perks in mind. We allow you to use however many you want. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Get yourself some calzone with that. Yeah, maybe I should do that. Oh man, it's just so tough to settle on this because there are definitely trade-offs. And the people who want the people who want difficulty would probably want option 2 or option 1. I feel like option 1 is a good mix between 2 and 3. I think I want to go with option 1. Yeah. Soon it was more expensive, so that's why I said small dinner. Well, you also said an orange or an apple. Can you imagine if an apple cost $20 right now? I'd be like, do I want to buy a Nintendo Switch 2 or do I want to buy 20 apples? The relative cost of goods would be very, very messed up in that case. A 10 piece is $15. Yeah, prices have definitely gone up a lot. How much can a banana possibly cost? $10? Yeah, someday that's not going to be a joke anymore. People are going to be like, oh, is that a joke because it's cheap for a banana? And bananas actually cost $1,000 now? Do I have bonanza or bananas? Yeah. Where do I put the Z sound? Okay, yeah, I'm leaning toward option 1, but I'm kind of waiting for someone to tell me, here's why you're wrong, Adam. It's just an opinion. There's no way for you to pick something where the entire player base will hate it, and no way for you to pick something where the entire player base will love it. And the problem with trying to have some scaling difficulty level is that you need a general power level for each meta perk that you offer. And the meta perks could be worth some number of like power points. I don't want to obfuscate this too much. So I think I'm leaning toward option 1. So I'm going to write that down. All right, so unlocking them. You can start the run with any number of, so using perks. You can start the run with any number of those perks to make the game easier for yourself. And we balance the difficulty levels such that we expect you to use X perks, e.g. easy, less than 5 perks, medium, like 5 to 15 perks. I don't know, 5 to 10 perks. And hard would be greater than 10 perks, something like that. I believe we can all hate something. Yeah, that's probably true. In fact, I was actually thinking in the shower this morning, what if I did a game design interview for somebody? Like I was conducting an interview and I asked a question, design an unfun game. And I thought about this, and the first thing that came to mind was World of Warcraft, but the view is a 1x1 pixel area. So it's still a game. It has an objective, it has different systems. Oh, and there's no audio. But you can't tell what's going on. So, as far as you're concerned, it might as well not be a game. And then the other thing I had as a thought process here was design a game that is fun for the majority of players, and the constraint is that the game is a 1,000 versus 1 game. So if I said design a game that's fun for the majority of players and it's a 3 versus 1 game, wait, I said this kind of wrong. It's fun for all players, let's say. Yeah, so if I said a 3v1 game, you could do like a hide and seek kind of game. And okay, 3 people are seeking, 1 person's hiding. I think that would be fun for everybody. But now 1,000 versus 1, how do you make it fun when you have so many people on your team? How does everyone even have an impact? And I don't know. I didn't actually come up with a great answer to this, but I really like this as a question. I think it gets you thinking, because you could say like, oh, I'll just make a totally black screen, but there's no objective then. So it's not really a game, right? Hey, Wendy. King of the Skull. Games with Twitch integration, we get inspiration for that? For the unfun game? I don't know if that's what you mean, but that's hilarious if you do mean that. Because I do actually think games, well, not Twitch integration games, because I guess even like Dead Cells has Twitch integration. That's a pretty good game. Oh, for the 1 versus 1,000. Yeah. Okay. I was going to say, I actually do think chat-based games are generally kind of bad. And if I go into someone else's chat and they have some like catch a Pokemon kind of thing, I'm just like, why? Why do you do this? It just spams your chat. New viewers don't care. But they must find it fun. They must like it. Map progression is driven by the player and not a dev team. I haven't played that game. Anyway, yeah, option 1's what I'm leaning towards. So let's keep going here. What's the next question for this? What's the point of all of this from the player perspective? I mean, we could have an achievement that says beat very hard for all specializations with less than, let's say, 10 perks. But even at that point, is there a reason? Also, the jump time thing is for my breaks. That's different. That's not a persistent game. Words on stream and that kind of thing is fun. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I guess I was thinking of the purely chat-based games where chat is both the input and the output and there's nothing else. Hey, yourself. Can I give you bits? If they're living that Twitch affiliate lifestyle, you can. Yeah, I don't even think we should do anything else other than this. So yeah, what is the player goal? Just have fun, right? Yeah, so it's really just have fun. But I guess the problem is that the best way to play isn't probably the most fun. It does make me think that we should allow you to add negatives in. But what if the negatives are just the opposites of the positives that we have? So what if we have like plus X% income multiplier and you can just make X negative if you want? It's literally the opposite. So if you want the run to be harder, you can say minus 25% income. Well, minus 25% income, I guess. And now, okay, it's harder. I think that's interesting. I think that's interesting. I think it basically turns into a sandbox, though. The other thing I've got to figure out is like, how does the UI look like for choosing these perks? Are any customizable in such a way, e.g. X% income, where you choose X? I'm trying to think about that. What would that look like? Hey, gun player. You must already be in the Netherlands by now. According to your map. Which I believe is a treasure map, which will lead to a card game at the end. Sounds like the Hades heat system. I don't remember what that was. I need to look at that. Level of self-imposed difficulty of Zagreus' escape attempts. Heat level can be raised or lowered. Having a certain amount of heat allows infernal gates containing greater rewards. Escaping the underworld on certain heat levels also allows certain cosmetic statues to be unlocked for the courtyard. So you can increase the difficulty and then you'll get greater rewards from these gates. I guess to offset the increased difficulty. Can I turn this off? Why does the X make it larger? God. You fly on Monday. I got you. Pick a selection of penalties. Each one applies a certain number of heat. Higher heat implies higher difficulty. Yeah. So yeah, the heat system, heat is just negatives, right? Does Hades have a like a positive heat system? Can you give yourself buffs? I played a long time ago and I beat the game and then I stopped playing. So I didn't really experience the heat system. Even if I did, this was long ago, so I don't remember it. But yeah, what I'm proposing is, oh, it's a different UI. Okay. Well, anyway, then I guess I'm proposing the heat system. Yeah. Except for it wouldn't change rewards. And I do think it turns it into a sandbox mode. Where did my... Yeah, okay, so I think the problem with being able to add however many perks you want is that the best way to play won't be the most fun, since you'll have trivialized the challenge out of the game. Oh, I remember this. Thanks for the picture. And they were just stats. And there was just one screen for all this too. This really doesn't have to be some crazy amount. Huh. Can you tell me what's the name of the keyboard? You can't use it in replies. It is the keyboard command. It's just, it only works as a standalone message, not as a reply. Because I never coded that on my bot. Anyway, yeah, it's a corn keyboard. And feel free to ask any other questions, although I do have those videos too if you want to check those out. Yeah, so I'm pretty much thinking of the same general idea here. You can just customize what the game is. So as a result, I think you should be able to add negative effects to increase the difficulty in some way. There wouldn't be an incentive for doing that though. And it would make the game much more sandboxy. I wanted the idea of some like pure challenge. Like you cannot adulterate it by making it easier. And I think the only way, I mean, we can still accomplish that with achievements. We could just say, yeah, beat this thing, but now just don't use perks. You know what, though? I'm just realizing. I could just test this with playtesters. And if the system doesn't seem like it's that fun, we could change it. But I don't think we're going to have a large enough sample size to know that it's not fun for the final player base. Like if only 10 people are playing, it might just be that 6 of them had an opinion that not the final player base is going to hold. And I guess the way that Hades tried to incentivize you, where'd those pictures go? I closed them. Okay, let's just keep this open for a second. The way that Hades tried to incentivize it is with these bounties, I guess. Yeah. And that was it. So it's like, hey, you kind of have a reason for doing this. Only been beaten a handful of times. When you say max heat, you mean like clicking plus on all of these things? Because, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I would expect it to be impossible in Skeleseller. Interesting. I guess the other thing we need to figure out are what are the perks? Okay, well, I think we would need to do something like this. Yeah, I think we need to do something like this. Yeah, like 12 advertisements back to back. Imagine if I just read your message and then without you realizing, I ran another like 40 minutes of ads. And you just thought it was you. And I'm like, oh, Windy's here. I'm gonna ruin his watching experience. Oh man. Yeah, just for the record, I only set it to do 3 minutes of ads every hour, I think. Kevin, thank you for gifting a sub. Windy doesn't have to suffer through the ads now. Yeah, so I have it run 3 minutes of ads every hour, and that way people don't have pre-roll ads. And sometimes that means 6 ads, I guess, for 30 seconds each. I guess maybe they can schedule some 15-second ads, and then maybe they can have up to 12. Yeah. Player skill has a massive influence. Not saying there's no skill in Skeleseller, but you can't dodge for your adventurers. Yeah. Which is why I don't think that having a max heat run in Skeleseller would actually be feasible. But that's okay because the player just wouldn't pick that. Or they'd try it and realize, like, oh my god, this is terrible. imagine there's a combination of things like start with 0 adventurers and start with 0 gold, and you just can't make any progress. You'd probably have to prevent that sort of thing. Sadly, the way it is, not your fault. Well, I could turn on pre-roll ads. Well, I guess then you'd potentially get hit with 12 ads as soon as you enter the stream. That's the only customization I can make, though. All right. So, yeah, I think we need to allow for negatives here. Got a job as a DevOps engineer. Well, happy September to you too, Sound of Gaming. Thanks for the resub. And congratulations. Did you start already? Or is it still on the horizon? Twitch a lot of people to turn them off completely. Yeah, it only does, I guess, for... Actually, I don't know if affiliates can do it. I was going to say, partners can do it. But I didn't really notice a difference when I turned them off in viewership. Start September 8th. Cool. Yeah. I wish you the best. It's going to be great. All right, so unlocking meta perks. Meta perks are not locked to a specialization, and any meta perks that can have a number can also be made negative. Oh, Meridio, thank you too for subbing. Only Asmin can do it. Docker, Kubernetes, Terraform, Ansible. I feel like a complete beginner. You'll learn a lot, though. Yeah. I think it'll be exciting and fun. Have a number. And I guess I'll write it this way. Like, most meta perks can be made negative. E.g., plus X workers could be plus 1 worker or minus 1 worker. Yeah, the rationale here is, wait, if they're just opposites of the same thing, I'm not sure this is interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure this is interesting. Especially because some of these aren't even possible. Like, we can't make it so you start with no adventurers. You have to have an adventurer. Or you have to have some way of making money. And right now, the only way is through adventuring. So I'd have to just like create items spontaneously. What I'm debating on is, what if in order to increase the difficulty for yourself, there was just maybe a difficulty slider and it let you customize what the objective and what the time limit would be? I'm not totally sure that's fun. I think I want to think about this for a little bit longer. $512 people? Yeah, jeez, that's crazy. Okay. I actually don't like the idea of negative perks. Well, I guess I do. Or at least not the ones that could have been positive. Starting with -1 worker or -1 adventurer is basically, well, starting with -1 adventurer makes the run impossible right now. Starting with -1 worker isn't very interesting. So it's basically just things like income multiplier, objective, time limit. Those I think we can have negative perks for, so that you can augment any run. Hi, Zabita Memer. Welcome back. Hello, hello. Can you really call them perks if they're negative? Maybe they should be called sucks. Yeah, I started to run with 3 perks and 2 sucks. I think something like this. I think there could be more unique ones that are generally relegated to twists for right now. Like you can only choose 2 town perks at a time. Could also add in negative twists. Or maybe even you start the run with 1 random negative twist. As opposed to picking them. It's not even funnier. Funnier than a food database? What are all the negative twists right now? Income multiplier, we already have that. Different adventurer limits. Yeah, okay. So some of these things are, I guess, kind of interesting. Maybe that's what we manifest as the negative perks. Yeah. Yeah. Worker strike wouldn't be possible. But different adventurer limits would be. Stat multiplier definitely would be. Farm crop value, I guess, could be. Town perk cost. Why did I say I don't like that? Yeah, so I guess I don't really have a problem. Yeah. So conclusion so far, negative perks are fine. Not all of them should be allowed to be negative. And we should probably put the negative twists in the negative perks. Deductions. All right, now you're pushing it over there. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt this time. Dud perks show up. Yeah, I like the idea of this. I think this is pretty cool. Skelecons. I like Skelecons. So yeah, negative perks can show up. They're not necessarily just the opposite of positive perks. Some negative meta perks, they're not really perks. I guess some negatives, meta negatives exist as well, so that you can increase the difficulty of a run. This allows for a more sandboxy style of play that could increase replayability. Also, if it just uses the negative twists and yeah, that we made, it shouldn't be that much dev time. Any mental tricks to not get overwhelmed on the first day? When I remember my first sweet job, it was overwhelming, but then after 1 to 2 months, I got in the swing of things. I think it's the best tip that I have is set your expectations correctly. A lot of big companies will actually say something like, you won't be touching code, as a SWE at least, for like X days. And they'll just outright tell you this, like X days could be a month. You won't make a PR for a month or 2 months or something like that. Or we don't expect you to do anything sort of meaningful in that time. So when I started at my last job, I was like, well, I'm going to be a rock star dev. I'm going to submit code like early. That was just stupid. It was so stupid of me to think that. Because if the company's not expecting it, don't place extra expectations on yourself within the first month. It's just not a point where you need to prove yourself, I feel. If you've been there for 10 years and you're like, okay, I'm going to go a little bit harder for a promotion. Yeah, sure, fine. But if the company's like, well, don't make code changes in your first month, and you're like, I'm going to ignore that. I think you're setting yourself up for probably more stress, not necessarily failure. So yeah, I think this is the best tip. Just set your expectations. Be like, I'm going to do what they expect of me. And then after you feel like you've got your bearings, maybe after a couple months, yeah, by all means, try to excel or something. But I don't think you should push too much when there's a lot going on. They call it drinking from the fire hose for a reason. I remember it wasn't being scared of the work, but more the flow and the procedure the company uses. I think when you consider all that you're doing at a new job, it's the work itself, it's the people, it's the processes, and it's potentially and maybe this is part of the process, but like the tech or the specific programs. So the work is pretty self-explanatory, right? You're working on a new code base or a new job or whatever. Anyway, you're doing something different. Obviously, this is pretty self-explanatory. We're in different people. The processes are pretty subtle sometimes. It's like how do I get legal to look at my work? That's potentially different at different companies. How do I what's the code review process or something? I don't know, it all depends on what the job is, right? This applies to coding at least. And then tech and programs, again, it's like, well, maybe you're using a Mac and you've only used Windows before. Maybe you're using like Outlook and you've only used Gmail before. Maybe any other number of things that could be here. So when you look at all of these things in totality, there's a lot of new stuff happening. And I think people are not very good with change on a good day. So at a new job, it's tough. So yeah, cut yourself some slack. Yeah, and then my second biggest tip, and this is especially true for people who are getting their first job, is lean on your coworkers. You're not expected to know everything. And the longer you withhold questions for people, the worse it's going to be when you finally do ask those questions. Was that Andy Dwyer meme? Like, at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. If it's your first day on the job and you ask, hey, how do I don't know, look up my paycheck information or something, people would be like, oh, yeah, here's how you do that. If you've been there for 5 years and you're like, hey, how do I get my paychecks? Hey, oh, hey, Kevin. Now we have two Kevins in chat. As a senior engineering manager, my best advice is ask lots and lots and lots of questions. Yeah, that's the lean on your coworkers bit that I think is really good. And yeah, if you have a buddy, I think that's even better. And ideally, you like your buddy. I think finding a mentor in new companies is pretty tough because not everyone cares about mentoring as a culture. Okay, so I like this, but we don't have much of an incentive to pick these. No, at least at first, I don't think there will be an incentive in the game to pick these, but eventually achievements can be the incentive. E.g., beat very hard with 5 negatives. They offer mentorship and pair programming sessions, which is cool. Yeah, I think pair programming is very underrated. And it's actually one of the things I really like as a dev streamer. How many of you have picked up a tip from just watching me do my work? Like, I never said, hey, here's a tip. You just saw me do something and you're like, oh, that looks good. I'm going to do that. Because I know it's a lot of you. And it's not even necessarily coding stuff. Like, a lot of people have commented on note taking or organization or something like that. So pair programming is the way that quote unquote normal people would have learned that stuff. Because otherwise, you're not going to look over a developer's shoulder and be like, hey, how do you open a new program? How do you type this line of code? I'm going to have to look for work next year. Not applied for a job in about 20 years. Oh, man. I hope you don't. I hope Oceanborn carries you across the ocean to Moneyland, where you find your buddy Adam, who's willing to share in your money. Yeah, looking for a job is not fun. I was just talking to a friend of mine who was like, oh, I dipped my feet back in the interviewing waters and I quickly got out of those waters. What did I miss? I don't think you missed too much. Coding notes organization, just a ton. Even light tips about patients' expectations. Yeah, nice. Yeah, by the way, this wasn't meant to be like a everyone pat me on the back kind of thing. What I meant was truly just to illustrate the point of you don't need to be trying to teach someone something to teach them something. I've been inspired by a lot of people who are just living their normal lives and they did something where I'm like, oh my God, I need to do that myself. And then I do that myself and I'm like, thanks, person whose name I forgot, but was the source of my inspiration. Pat, pat, pat. So many back pats happening right now. Not trying to get it finished before I run out of monies. All good. It is what it is. All right, everyone. I want you to go to Steam and go buy this game. If I could type it. you'll notice there's a giant Windy Beard Games thing here. That'll let Windy develop for another day. Yeah, the stealing effective traits from people, I think, is super nice. Stealing property from people is not super nice. So how does this impact difficulty selection? I think we've answered this. How do you spend your skill points? Do you just pick the thing you want, or is it random? So it's like, how do you unlock different perks? How do you unlock perks? Do you just pick the thing you want, or is it random? I like the idea of randomness. Yeah, so let's copy paste this out of here. And let's put ideas lower than questions, because I like copy pasting them from one section to another. And put this down here. Sounds good. I also did that. I found the Adam 13531 planet or pilot. I forgot what. Do we want to use any of the ideas on the list below? Okay, so question is here, and answer is the whole mode is based around randomness. So I like the idea of either randomly giving you a meta perk or allowing you to choose between two. What would it be like if we randomly gave them to you? You ever played the Motherload game on Miniclip? I have not. Oh, I see. I should have waited for the rest of that sentence. Where's the ideas section where I had the Kirby Air Ride thing? Oh, here it is. Yeah, so here's another thing we could potentially do. I think the question is, do you want to steer these? I don't even think you care that much. So I think just having them be random at first is probably the easiest thing to do, so we should just do that. Yeah, I like that idea. I don't even know how much you would try to steer these if you could. So I think just randomly giving them out is both fun and easier to develop. Sounds good. So let's write that down. Unlocking meta perks. You spend X points and you don't choose which specific perk you unlock. The rationale is it's fun to have some randomness, but also I don't think you would know how to steer these decisions that much. Oh, you know what? No, this is probably a bad idea. The finals did something interesting. They had a wheel. Can I? This is probably not going to search for what I want to search for. Yeah, it did actually. This is pretty good. Okay, yeah. So this is a cool idea, but this is because there are microtransactions. So the way this worked is you got tickets, and it doesn't matter how. You got tickets, and you could spin the wheel. So the first time you spin, you are guaranteed to get something that you do not already have. So let's say you get this heart thing here, right? Now the next time you spin, because there are 20 things on the wheel, you have a 5% chance to get the heart again. If you get it again, what you end up with is a fraction of a ticket. And after you get 4 fractions of a ticket, you get a full ticket again. So you get a 100% chance on the first spin, and then a 95% chance, and a 90%, and so on and so forth until you get down to a 5% chance, which means it takes roughly 20 spins to get the final item. Well, guess what? They don't give you enough tokens or tickets or whatever so that you'll probably even get the final item. So I've been playing the finals now for a while, and I've never once gotten every item on the wheel. But then that's where I said microtransactions come in, because you can just buy the remaining things if you want to. I haven't. But the interesting idea here is as you unlock stuff, the chance goes down to get new items. I guess this isn't that novel. This is pretty much how every single card game in the world works, right? You open up a Magic the Gathering pack. If you've never opened a pack before, they're all new cards for you. But then you open your 10th pack and then your 100th pack, and you're not getting the cards you want. So I wonder if we could do that. Well, gambling wheel, again, this was, so in this game, yes, there are microtransactions. There wouldn't be in Skeleseller. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, like, let's say you get your first 7,500 gold, and that gets you, like, 2 perks. Should your next 7,500 gold also get you another 2 perks? Probably not. Like, probably it should get you, like, 1.7 or something. And then your next 7,500 should maybe get you like 1.5 and so on and so forth. And one of the ways you could accomplish that is with random spinning. The other way you could accomplish this is you just say, okay, it's 7,500 gold for 2 perks. And then it's, I'm not going to figure out the exact numbers here, but then it's 8,500 gold. Then it's 9,500 gold and so on and so forth. This is probably just the better way of doing it. So that's probably what I'm going to do. So yeah, I like that idea. Also, it's like one big experience bar, which is pretty cool. So where did my notes go? I have like 5 Google Docs tabs open. And I want to find the specific one. Here it was. All right, so how many points or how do we, I don't even know what to write for this. How do we manifest the costs for the perks? So I thought briefly about the finals and the wheel that they had. You get a new item. You're guaranteed a new item on the first spin. Then there's a 5% chance you get a repeat, which is worth 1/4 of a spin. Then a 10% chance, etc., until the final item only has a 5% chance to earn it. I don't think randomness behind the unlock itself is good. So I think we should just have an experience points style system. Putting that in quotes because that doesn't really mean anything. I guess I'll just take out the quotes. So like first perk, 3,500 gold. Next perk, 3,700 gold. So on and so forth. 10 is gold to pick the perk they want. Yeah, but this is what I was saying earlier. I don't think these are going to be things that are so important that even steering them, you would want to pick a certain one. So I was thinking about Kirby Air Ride here. And I don't know if you heard me talking about this earlier, but you can see what the objective is for the gray squares. So you can like figure out which one you want to unlock next. In Kirby Air Ride, that made a little bit of sense. But I don't think it really makes sense for this game. So I think just randomly getting them is fine. So yeah, I'll write that in leaning toward. So unlocking meta perks. The cost to get another perk keeps increasing. Oh, I think the important word to use here is guarantee. So rationale, I like this better than having a chance to roll a new perk. It should be a guarantee so that you actually feel like you're making progress. Kind of interesting. I've talked about this game before, but there's a game called Chocobo World, which it's always hard to find the specific thing I'm talking about when I look this up. Yeah, so it was this little pixelated game that you could play, but they had a tic-tac-toe board for leveling up. They don't show a picture of this, do they? I mean, it's not too crazy, so I'll just draw it. But the way it worked is it randomly put a dot on a 3x3 grid. And when you got a tic-tac-toe, so like I might do something like this. Oh, cool, you level up. So here it took 5. So the minimum it can take is 3. And you might get lucky and you might get 3 in a row, or you might take a long time to get however many it is. I don't know what the max is, 7 or something. So it's basically a way of obscuring, it's 3 to 7 points to level up. And it's kind of interesting to do a system like this because by putting in a visual, a lot of people won't figure out what this actually means. And you can make it clearer by just saying like experience to level 6. And then the next level, oh, it's actually 4. You'd still feel like, oh, I got kind of lucky here. But this is randomness at the point of leveling up, which when you do see a 7 here and you're like, oh God, it's the highest number it could be, that feels bad for the entirety of the level. Whereas by giving you little dots on a tic-tac-toe board, every time you get a dot, I guess after the first 2, you might potentially level up. So it's a little bit more exciting. And that randomness is at the time of getting the point. So those tiny little changes, I think, can make a big impact on player perception. Okay, so what else haven't we answered? How do you unlock these? Do you pick the thing you want or is it random? Okay, so we did this. Yeah, so that's done. What are the perks you're getting? Let's leave that one for the end. I don't think that's very important. Should we have specific achievements or challenges to get more perk points? Okay, so this is how do you get the points that you're spending? Let's start with that. How do you... Okay, how do you get the points? Didn't I already say you get it through gold, though? Oh, yeah, I already answered that. Okay, are there other ways of getting perk points? Like, I've already said that you get them based on gold earned through a run. But we could have achievements grant them too. Oh, and then should there be some kind of like perk point sync at the end of this? Should there be a perk point sync after you've unlocked all of the perks? Maybe that's when you start getting negatives. It'd be kind of weird if you only got a negative outcome. Yeah, actually, I need to answer that. How do you get the negative outcomes? The negative perks? Maybe they just show up alongside a positive. I don't really think we need to answer this question because we can always add it in later. Like we could say achievements give you some perk points. Yeah, that's right. Sucks. How do you unlock the sucks? Yeah, I don't think this is something we need to decide now, but it's very reasonable to have achievements give perk points. I'll write it down. Could eventually make it so that achievements give perk points. I don't think we need to start with that system though. You can adjust to be positive or negative depending on the challenge you're looking for. Yeah, some are going to make sense to have be positive or negative, and some are only going to make sense to be either positive or negative. But I guess what I was wondering about is if you have an only negative thing, how do you get this? Because you don't probably want to unlock this thing. So it probably shouldn't take up the slot of a positive thing. Yeah. Or otherwise, they know you have. You shouldn't doubt yourself, Mitch. And also now you've monetarily contributed. I'm going to buy probably 3/4 of an apple with that money. It's like $75. How much of the meta stuff changed the start of the run versus the potential of the run? So this is the perks question that we have here. And I'll think about that later. How are we rewarding the players with these bonuses? Is it from earning gold? Can you get this by repeating runs? Do we encourage variety? All right, yeah, that second question is pretty important here. So let's say you beat farming mode, the farming spec on very hard. You got whatever 12,500 perk points, or whatever 125 perk points. Couldn't you just keep beating that mode? Do we want to stop that? And my answer for this is maybe going to sound a little bit surprising, but I don't think there's a problem with that. If you have fun playing farming mode over and over, then play it. If you want to beat other stuff, then play that, right? It's a game. I don't think we need to encourage you to beat everything. Yeah. Plus, it's pretty simple if we do it this way. Although, I guess it'd be simple enough if we did it the other way. We already have gold times difficulty multiplier. We could say times like novelty factor. Have you done this combo before? And And if so, we say it's a factor of 1.2, otherwise it's 1, something like that. Might want to reward modify if they're playing easy or hard. So maybe 3 clears of easy is it? Oh yeah. That's already going to be a thing. The amount of points you get is going to be based on the difficulty. But what I was asking is, should you like the difficulty is a modifier of a specialization. So like farming very hard gives you 100 points. Should your second run of farming very hard also give you 100 points? And like, yeah, I think so. Why not? If you feel like just grinding that, then grind that. But probably you're going to want to try different things. And if you don't, then yeah, you don't. I don't think we should make you try different things. One of the things I love about Clarib's Hero is that you could find builds to break the game. I think that's fun. It makes you feel special when you work it out. Yeah. And I think that'll be part of this. I think that's already kind of part of this. It's actually pretty fun when you get a run going and you get like 12 levels in the rogue. And you're just like, oh, the rogue is soloing the final location. All right, so let's write that down too. I'll say, note, there is no penalty for repeating runs that you've already won. E.g., if farming on very hard gives X points, then it'll continually give X points. Similarly, there is no bonus for doing runs, new runs. Hey, I'll go dev. It's going pretty well. I have an identity crisis probably once per month, and we had our monthly identity crisis in the last few days, and I think we're getting through it now. So I think you've heard me talk about this very topic before, but I feel like development in a nutshell, at least for me, is feel confident, stop feeling confident, question everything, and then repeat. and that's it. That's how my entire career has gone. And every game that I've made has gone this way too. And the feel confident part is like, oh, hey, Skeleseller demo is doing well. And then the stop feeling confident was people want more game. And then it was, how do we do this? And I came up with challenge mode. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good. And then round 2, it was like, okay, well, challenge mode needs something more to it. So then I stopped feeling confident. I'm like, oh God, have I made a terrible game? Yeah, so being aware of that cycle is, I'd say 80% of the battle. Or maybe even less than that. I think identifying, like if you consider your life to be a sine wave where the y-axis is your happiness. In fact, let's put a little smiley face there and an unhappy face down here. And this is time. Then I think your life is going to go something like this. Not exactly evenly. It'll probably have some spikes and everything. And I think the important part is when you're here, realizing that most likely you will end up back up here. I think it is so hard to convince yourself in that moment because you're like, oh, I'm here for a reason. I'm at this trough. Yeah, and to some extent, this is the hedonic treadmill. I think this is just part of how we process events. You have a stable state, and happiness can bring you upward, and sadness can bring you downward, but it's not bringing you to like new extremes necessarily, and it's all relative. So if you're making $100 million, you can still be in the unhappy side of the chart, and people would think you're crazy, and vice versa, right? It's not like a wealth thing. It's not a success thing. It's just a, how's your brain processing these events? Should add a tack board with those four bullet points. With AI, we could probably auto detect which one I'm in. You can study my face. Okay, we made great strides so far already. I'm super happy with some of this stuff. So what are concrete tasks that we have to do to make this a reality? Yeah, this is something we have to push toward the end. Whoop. Every once in a while I have my hand on the wrong row on my keyboard because this moves around. Similarly, there's no bonus for doing new runs. All right, so yeah, we're gonna push this down to here. So these are like final questions. What does your very first run look like in terms of progression? I want the first run to feel like it gave you something. This is something we'll just need to play test, and it'll be hard to do without metrics. So as an example, let's say that the average gold earned in the first run is like 1750 or something. Then we should probably give a reward at like 1500 gold so that most people are going to get it on their first run. And some people will need to do just one more run for it. Although I actually expect that you'll get a lot better after your first run, such that you don't need a perk. Move the arrow from confidence or whatever state that someone shifted it to. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm fully back to feeling confident yet. I think I will when I start to see everything else fall in line. You know, there's a kind of interesting phenomenon that's been happening, which is I can go look at this page on Steam, and based on just this number right here, I can tell if my marketing efforts were successful from the prior day or the prior week. So one day this number shot up to like 100 or 125, and I'm like, something happened. And I typed Skeleseller into YouTube, and I found that Idle Cub had covered the video, and he ended up getting like 75,000 views on that video. And for a long time, that number stayed pretty high. And in the last couple weeks, these numbers have been like lowish. The number of units per day that's moving is like 20. Remember, this is just for the demo. So the game is free. You don't pay for it. This is not dictating money. But it's, I think the interesting part is just this number will let me know, did something catch on? And if it drops down to 0, if it goes up to 9, it doesn't really make a huge difference, right? But if it goes up to 1,000 or something, I'd be like, okay, somebody covered the game. Spend a lot of time listening to game dev podcasters? No, I don't. I don't listen to podcasts at all, actually. I tried for a bit. A friend of mine and I were trying to make a podcast at one point, except for I didn't listen to any podcasts. So I had to go do some homework and listen to them. And I'm like, I just don't like this. I think I might like it more now. Although I need to try it and I need to find something that's actually good. I think of podcasts as almost being improv, and the prepared work as being like an audiobook or like a YouTube video even. And I think improv can be good in some cases. If you consider improv comedy, it's like, yeah, the masters of improv comedy are hilarious. But probably the average stand-up comedian is going to be maybe a little funnier just because they'll have had time to polish everything. Just got to find the right ones. I don't even listen to music anymore. Yeah, I should probably give it another shot. I tried listening to an audiobook the other day, and it asked for my library card, and I typed it in, and it said it was the wrong card, and then I gave up. I don't know what happened because I only have the one library card as far as I know. So I never listened to an audiobook that day. An AI sponsored video, as in an AI company gave them money. Because I'm a little torn on sponsorships. There's that saying, make hay while the sun is out. I feel like if anyone is willing to come over and hand you a bundle of money, that you might want to consider it so you can do the things you love to do. But I recognize there can be ethical concerns, especially if you start talking about like substances, gambling, that sort of thing. I wouldn't put AI in the same category as these other couple. So that's why, to me, it doesn't feel like it's so bad. Gushing over everyone is clearly not great. I don't know. I feel like that's just kind of a normal sponsorship, right? Like you're rarely going to get a sponsorship for a product that you really liked. And on the off chance you do, you'll probably be able to tell. It's like those, what is it? The orders of silence or something like that. Like if I put up a web page that says something like, I, Adam, on my own volition, like updated this web page. I don't know if people know what I'm talking about, but basically you update this every single day. And then when you're under duress, you then stop updating this. And then people know that something's wrong. I kind of think of that with sponsors. Like you'll know when someone actually likes the sponsor that they're hawking. It was an entire paid video. Well, okay, yeah. I don't think the length of the video really impacts this discussion too much for me, at least. Hang on one second. My wife is calling. She knows I'm streaming. Hang on one second. Okay, she said she's at the grocery store and just asked if I want anything. Fine. Yeah, I think this is no different from like, oh, hey, here's a, I don't know, like a VPN software or something. It's like, how many influencers do you think use VPNs? Probably not as many as who got paid by VPNs. And they have to, as part of the sponsor segment, like make it sound good. It's not like there's much opinion in the VPN software, right? Anyway. What does your first run look like? Yeah, this is something we can kind of answer later. I don't think this is something we even need to answer at all, really. I think we need to answer this now. It's something that playtesters can help figure out. You'd miss a day all of a sudden. Well, it might be like a once a week kind of update or something, or you have it on a script. It's not a segment. Okay, I think I'm using segment to mean portion of media. I think you're using it to mean part of a larger video. I get that it's a standalone video, but I know what you're saying. I think everyone needs some skepticism. And I think your skepticism should go way up when you see that something is sponsored, because you recognize that the incentive is now twisted. It's, hey, someone paid me to say this thing. So that's why I still sort of think, look, at some point it's on the consumers, right? If that person didn't do a video, there'd still be this product out there. People could still stumble on it, and they still need to decide for themselves that it's not so great. So hearing someone gush about it is probably like, well, they're getting paid to do it. They did a whole 30-minute video. They rarely do that, probably. So that either means they actually liked it or that they're getting paid a boatload of money. Love listening to game dev interviews with people who are successful in the industry. Yeah, the thing I do occasionally read is the game dev subreddit. And I think there are a lot of problems with this subreddit in terms of people who are just trying to advertise without it seeming like an advertisement. But in general, one of the things I've kind of seen repeated a lot is people who post there with success stories have maybe one success story. And it's kind of hard to replicate based on one data point. But even if someone went in there and they're like, man, I just keep pumping out good game after good game. I've got 10 games I've made that are great. I wonder how much they could extract. Here's what I thought my means of success were, in a way that aren't already general good pieces of advice, like market your game or make sure the game is high quality or something like that, or like have a consistent art style. Like, these are things that probably most game devs would say, oh yeah, this is reasonable, simple, straightforward advice. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about a lot of this. I probably need to expose myself to a little bit more of that. Does quitting a run let you keep the goal? No, probably not. So we got to figure this out when it comes to concrete tasks as well. Also, we need to make sure you can't reload a save and get credit for it again. We probably need a run identifier in it. People tend to avoid the massive luck factor and the gajillion uncontrollable variables. Yeah. And actually, one of the things I've heard, and I don't know how true this is lately, that some publishers are looking for more incremental games. If this is true, and again, I don't know that it's true, but if it's true, it means that there's some amount of momentum behind the genre that they've identified as a gap in the market. And I am coincidentally making one of these games. And so I feel like time is of the essence right now, which is part of why I feel guilt about pushing the deadline of this. But I'd like to benefit from that, right? And if I wait another 10 years, that probably won't be the case. Or maybe it will be again by then. But if I wait 1 year, maybe it won't be the case, or 2 years. So yeah, we gotta take this train while we can. All right, what else do we have here? Make sure save files don't mess with this. You should be able to load from a save file, finish a run, reload, finish again. Try the concept of which runs you got rewards for. Yeah, I already wrote that down. All right, so what do we call these things? Skell points. What do we call the perks? And I guess how much do we make these cost? We make the cost essentially increase by increasing how much it takes for you to get a skell point. Aren't they more on mobile? I played most of them on Android and it was very fun. Also, roguelike games are quite popular. I think a lot of incremental games are on mobile, yeah. It's hard to say that more are because I'm not so aware of the total market right now. But this one's on PC at least. And I think it does clearly fit into incremental. Yeah. Yeah, well, the other thing too, this whole concept of like a challenge mode inside of a semi-idle game, I think is pretty unique. And I don't know that I've executed it as well as it could be executed, but I think we're kind of getting there. And I played a bunch of runs yesterday and I thought it was fun. It's cool seeing the differences here and knowing that I'm probably going to be adding more and more perks. Like right now, this pool that can show up is only like, I think 30 something perks big. But if we add even another like 15 of those, it could be pretty interesting. There's one other piece of rationale that I did not write down for this that I should probably write down. It lets us paper over harder to solve problems. Imagine a meta perk saying you start with more storage, solving the problem of having too many items, which would otherwise be difficult to solve without tipping the randomness within the game. You could honestly just make challenge mode the entire game and the base is just casual mode. It's kind of sort of how it is, except for the way I kind of look at it is the base game is like the tutorial for challenge mode, and it happens to be very laid back. And maybe you shouldn't have to beat the base game to unlock challenge mode. That was my plan originally, but maybe the real thing is that you should only have to play for like half of the base mode and you can unlock challenge mode. Then again, I'd also talked about that escape hatch option of you just go into the settings and there's a button there that says like unlock challenge mode. And when you click it, it says, are you sure you really should beat the main game? And then you say yes. And it's like, are you really sure? And we do that another 10 or 20 times. And then we just let you unlock challenge mode. And then you can click this button even if you haven't beaten main mode. And you're like, I'm super confused now. And we were like, well, we asked you 20 times. What did it look like if it was funded by a publisher? I don't think it looked too different. Yeah, I don't think it would look too different. Like, I don't think a publisher would necessarily want you to add microtransactions or something. But yeah, a lot of mobile games, a lot of idle games in general are like microtransaction heavy. And they lend themselves pretty well to that. People just want to see numbers go up, and they're generally very long time horizon games. Tend to lose the base. I think there's a suggestion here that if you get a game published or funded, I suppose, that they want to increase the amount of money it makes. Yeah, I think that's probably reasonable. I think publishers are probably taking fewer risks on indie games. Maybe going with more certain genres or smaller development times, at least based on the articles I've been reading. All right, so naming is really tough. I do kind of like the idea of skell points, but then we'd have to call them skells or something. So maybe not. And I like the idea of calling the things that you unlock modifiers, and there'd be positive or negative ones. Is there a bone pun on cartilage. No. I know this is the thesaurus, but I was wondering if there's some other word that I could use for this. And I think it's got to be a term that encompasses both positive and negative. This encompasses both positive and negative aspects. And shortening them to mods is kind of nice. I should not belabor this either. We can change this very easily for users. I think the more annoying part is when you end up with something in code that's named differently from what it's exposed in the game, and there's just not enough impetus to change it. And it's not even as hard to change. It's just like, well, what if you change the name again? Then you go modify another 17 files. Modifemers. Has no in-game purchases, single pay to play. Yeah, I wonder how those games catch on mobile. Because if I recall correctly, Magic Research is also on Steam, isn't it? I wonder if the Steam version came first or if they launched concurrently. Oh, I guess this is mostly just... It's mostly just UI. There's very little, like, graphical gameplay, huh? Oh, I thought that was a Steam slider for the screenshots, but that's down here. Also, they did kind of a classic thing with game dev screenshots where you see at the bottom here, it says 352 out of 2200. Every one of their screenshots has that same amount with the same number of whatever income per second. But hey, the game did, moderately well and well enough to have earned a sequel. Did they do different things with the screenshots here? Look at that. They changed the numbers now. So I guess they learned in between these. Unless, are any of these two numbers the same? Yeah, the 508 is the same. So these two screenshots have the same thing. And actually, wait, are they same? They're the same screenshot, just between light and dark? Huh, that's interesting. Skeleseller. I kind of like that. Oh, yeah, I think modifiers is probably good. I don't think we should like beat people over the head with these puns too much. So I do like modifiers. Sounds good to me. But then the question is, what do we call the points you use to unlock them? I said something about bone points, right? So bone stands for business optimization via new expansions. I'm going to call them bone points. All right, I'll write this down, but I hope I don't regret this. Yeah, I'm going to call them bone points. All right, so you get bone points based on how much gold you earn running your business. No penalty. X points. Or we could call them bonus points. BONE-US. I don't like that though. You spend points to unlock special perks. Okay, we call these modifiers. I'll just write naming here. Bone points. The bone system exists and you earn these through that. So this makes sense. I don't think Skell points is strong enough. And you're not unlocking skills anyway. And then modifiers. This encompasses both positive and negative aspects. And we have enough puns. Is ligaments? Is this... Maybe I'm missing something, but is there more to it than this? Is there a pun on this? Or do I have to, is this like just add water? I have to create the pun myself? Nope. Okay. Just making sure. Okay, so I want to write these other things down. Unlocking, I'm going to say modifiers here. You spend points to unlock them. Cost to get another modifier keeps increasing. Rationale, chance to roll a new modifier. We guarantee eventually makes you. So the achievements give bone points. BP. You don't choose which specific modifier to unlock. It's fun to have some randomness. Want to do that decision. Some negative mods exist as well. Allows for a more sandboxy style of play. Just use that. Should be much dead time. Instead of pick these. Eventually, yep, sounds good. 5 negative modifiers. Meta perks. So modifiers are not tied to a specialization. Using modifiers. Start the run with any number of modifiers. Make the game easier, harder for yourself. We balance the difficulty level such that we expect you to use X modifiers, X positive ones, I guess. And I guess, yeah, we keep track of positive and negative. These are guidelines. They're not even guidelines. We don't even need to just tell this to the player. We don't even need to show these to the player. Well, maybe we do. Probably should show these to the player so that they understand roughly what's expected of them. And then there is one other problem here, which is that some modifiers may be more powerful than other ones, such that they're like, you could probably have 10 modifiers that do almost nothing, at which point maybe it's still hard to beat medium mode, or you could have 5 really impactful ones that allow you to beat hard mode. At first, ignore that mods can have different impact levels. Plus 5 adventurers is much more impactful than plus 50 gold. We would count each as +1 mod. We're just naming bone-related terms. There's a Super Mario video that was making fun of video essays, which kept making this joke like, you know, how much does Mario need to do X or whatever, and they're like, let's jump on in, and then they just kept saying this throughout the video. and it there's a anyway. Fine, I'll link this other video I'm thinking of. This one I actually know how to find, so let me go find this one. This. All right, I really liked this video. This is a Chris and Jack video. They're a sketch comedy duo. And there's a line in here that reminds me of this conversation that if anyone watches this video, they're going to forget what the line was. I'll also link this on YouTube. Not that anyone's probably watching over there. Can't give all the good ideas away. Oh, you could think like achievements, ligaments. That is quite the stretch. Yeah. I think too many words end in ments for you to do that. Regex dictionary. All right, string caret dot star ments $. What? Did I mess something up? Why does it only show one word? Oh, because it doesn't have the plural? Huh, there are only 100 words? Oh, no, 287. Yeah, so achievement should be on this list. Yeah. And ligament should be as well. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think that's a very strong one. Okay, so what else we have? So naming is done. It's terrible. But at least you put a smiley face in your message, so I don't feel offended. Should we have you unlock difficulties? I think yes. But this I don't really care too much about. either we do, which would make it clear that you shouldn't jump immediately to the higher difficulties, or wait, no, either we do and we make it clear, or we make you unlock them. Is that notification sound on the stream, or was that my computer? I think it was yours. And isn't there on Windows like Windows key V or something? Windows C notifications? Windows N. Yeah, try typing Windows N and see if that works. I'm on a Mac. Okay, then at the upper right, you should have a notification thing here. So just click that. There should be a dot next to it. It might have been my computer, by the way. I didn't hear anything. So which one of these is better? I don't know if I really care. I think your very first run should probably be locked to easy or medium. But why even do that? I think I'll just make it clear to people that it's slightly harder. And now I want to know what you find. Unlocking difficulty levels. I don't really care one way or the other if these are unlocked by default or not. So I think let's just unlock them by default. We should make it clear that you need X mods, positive mods, to beat a particular difficulty. Okay, so that's been answered. Oh, wait. Oh, that was a combo question. And specializations? Okay, yeah. So how do you unlock specializations? How do you unlock different specializations? This I wanted to do just so that you were funneled into one of the sort of better ones, maybe? Better? I don't know. Better is kind of the wrong word. It sounded like a chat ping. It's my work laptop. Huh. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it came from a website and not from an OS notification. I don't know. I don't know how those things get combined. So how would you unlock different specializations? What are the different things we could think of here? Options. You could spend bone points. You could just naturally get them by completing runs. Maybe by winning runs? I think by winning runs. Yeah, I think that would be kind of cool. So like if you win one run, you get one new specialization. Maybe every time you win a run, you get a new one. So how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So after you win 6 runs, you would get all of the specialization. And we could just unlock them randomly for you. Yeah, I think that's reasonable enough. It's a good starting point. Unlocking specializations. Every time you win a run, you unlock a random specialization. Rationale. This is... Did I write that you just start with 3 of them? I could have sworn I did somewhere. Starting options. You only start with these and slowly unlock the others by winning runs, at which point a random locked one is unlocked. Rationale. We start you with only a few so that you are guided toward the more sort of standard routes, which would make it easier for balancing. Then you unlock them randomly because, again, steering wouldn't really be needed for this. They're unlocked on winning so that you don't have to choose what to spend bone points on. In fact, actually, you don't even spend these, right? It's just you hit a certain amount and then you get the bonuses. Yeah. All right, take care, Mitch. Thanks for the bits. You're the cheerleader now. I hope you have a good weekend too. And whatever amount of time off I end up taking. I hope you don't miss me in that time. It's a wonderful pun to end on. I think, did they even call it that? No, they call it bits leader to avoid cheerleader is the word. Are you bone points for this? Unlocking modifiers. So you don't spend points. When you hit a certain number of points, you unlock modifiers. The cost keeps increasing. Yeah. I think that's good. All right, so we've answered this question by winning. What does UI look like? Do we want to use any of the ideas? Should there be a perk point sync after you've unlocked all the perks? Okay, so I haven't fully answered these things yet. I do feel that I'm losing some steam here. Just energy-wise. Not like I'm coming up with worse ideas or something. I think the ideas are all fine. So what does the UI look like? Are any customizable? Yeah. All right, how about we look through the ideas? Maybe that'll be the easiest thing. Some aspects of difficulty could always be changed. These are basically what are the negative perks or negative modifiers, I mean. So what are the modifiers that you unlock? Both positive and negative. I don't think we need any of these ideas. Well, these we probably do. All right, those here. Probably any negative twist. And then these sorts of things. Enemy strength is already a twist, maybe? I don't know. I'm also not sure whether this is going to make your runs more one-dimensional. I hadn't thought about that. How did you change Google Docs BG color? I use Dark Reader. Wait, sorry, that's the wrong thing. I always do that. Ignore the first command. It's the second command. It's Dark Reader, and then you just click this. Warning to anyone who's watching, this is about to make this very bright. So I click this button, and it's back to normal. I click this, it's back to dark. And I do that for practically every website. So like Google search might be able to be dark by default. I don't know. Like I don't think Bing search can be. But yeah, so pretty much every website I'm on is always in dark mode without it needing to expose a dark mode. It does do weird things sometimes. So sometimes a site will become nearly unusable. Sometimes it messes up the CSS such that you get some artifact and you think it's a site bug, but it's actually a dark reader bug. Yeah, welcome in, Spicy Thunder. Okay, this only just struck me now. Do the mods make the runs more one-dimensional? Like if you're in farming specialization, and wouldn't you always choose plus X% crop value or something? I mean, if you want to play that way, I guess you would. You might not even have it. I guess they're randomly given out. So if you did get that, it may steer you towards certain specializations, which is actually fun, I think. It's in dark mode by default. Looking for docs, burning my eyes, reading my notes. Yeah, it's nice, but unfortunately, when you take a picture, like let's say, oh my God, wow, that was very hard. Okay, so yeah, let's say I have a picture here. Where's an example here? Like it's in negative color. This is probably a better example. Like the logo's in negative color. And by the way, docs, this is really stupid, but you can't just right click and copy an image. So now I try to paste the image, right? and it doesn't do anything because that's not a thing. You have to go to copy as markdown and then go to a base 64 converter, paste this in, delete all the meta stuff from here, and then hit decode, and then you'll get your image. Why I didn't know that? Yeah, it's kind of silly. So copy is copy within Google Docs. So if I were to paste it somewhere else now, it is on my, quote unquote clipboard. Well, actually, I guess it is just on my clipboard, but it's with metadata that only Google Docs understands. And there's no like save image here. You would expect that to be there, right? They've just never added one. And people have asked for this for a long time. There's save to keep. That's not what you'd probably want for this. But yeah, nuts. So I have to run it through this thing every time. I should probably make an extension that does that. All right, any of the ideas on the list? I'm just going to delete this. So where we left off is answer the questions and then start coding. Ooh. Okay, but here's what we got to so far. Yeah, I guess put ideas in a different section of these notes. I want this to be up here below the to-do list. And if I realize how long this document was, I wouldn't have done it that way. It's 10 pages. All right, rationale for meta progression. We should just put this in here. We should just put all this in there. Yeah, conclusion so far. Replayability. Rewards can increase the pace of the run, especially the beginning of the run. The pace, a slow pace is actually fine, actually preferable while people are learning the mode. But then it becomes a bit tedious. All right, I'm convinced. Oh God, though, I'm also convinced this is going to take like 2 more months, like I said. I'm probably going to, this weekend, go edit the Steam page. I just don't know what to set this to. It says Q4. That's not possible. It's just not happening. And at some point, it's not desirable, right? Q4 is, what, October, November, December? And I think the suggestion to not launch games at certain times, like, oh, it's a Tuesday, don't launch the game, or oh, the Silk Song's coming out, don't launch the game. I think that's overblown, but I do think launching in December is potentially a bad idea because I think it'll get overshadowed by tons of games that are coming out. So anyway, I don't know if Q4 is going to be possible, even if it were to be December 20th or something late in the year. So is Q1 possible? Like, let's say I finish challenge mode in 2 months. So end of October rolls around. I'm done with challenge mode. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Now I go back and I start scrambling to fix other things. So maybe we get some localization. We'll probably have a lot of confidence from the playtesters at that point. I would need to finish the rest of the content for the main game. So add in bosses, locations, change a couple of features that were done. God, it's tempting to just say like, yeah, of course it's possible. What if we just said H1? H1 would definitely be possible. Like this, I am pretty much convinced, yes, we could do this. This is a maybe. Everything is possible. It is necessary. I think here's what I think is necessary. I think at this point it's launching as soon as we're convinced by the quality of the game, so that if it doesn't do well, we can move on. And if it does do well, then we can like fuel that growth and then work based on what the player base as a whole wants. So if they're like, man, challenge mode is great, like you should invest more resources in that. Or if they're like, man, regular mode is the best, I'd love to play that again. So yeah, I think it is somewhat necessary. A few things to avoid, like you say, December. January is also not good because people are looking for sales. Anytime that's not during a big sale, it's pretty much okay. Yeah. So I think I should just change this page right now to say Q1 of 2026, or maybe just tonight or something, or on the weekend. I don't know. I got to organize all this stuff. Man. All right. Today has been good. What I'd love to do is get this to-do list, which is 24 pages long, to not be 24 pages long. Yeah, I think we say 2 months for challenge mode. Till the end of October for challenge mode. If it's not done by then, and it isn't just like minor polish stuff. Well, I shouldn't make some ultimatum here. If it's not done and it's looking like it's promising and I need more time, then I take more time, right? Never worked on a game that's hit an estimated launch. Yeah. Yeah, I think I've talked to you about this, but Hofstadter's Law. Hofstadter's Law. It always takes longer than you expect, even when you take into account Hofstadter's Law. This will be forever etched in my mind. The problem, I guess, is when you communicate how long you think it'll take. So, like, there are some YouTubers who've played the game now who are like, oh, Q4, that's not that far away. And they're going to go back to the Steam page and be like, Q1? It didn't say that before. Whatever you think it's going to take at 50%. Yeah. So it does make me wonder, like, should we just say Q2? But I do want to launch in Q1, and I think it's possible. And the other thing I think is that if Q1 2026 doesn't look achievable, we could always consider early access. I don't think we're ready for it now. But the more I see videos pop up, and I'm going to ask some more people to do this for challenge mode, I think the more I'll get an idea of, is it in the right spot? Oh, man. Actually, this isn't challenge mode. It was the other video, the plumbing that he did was challenge mode. This one was the demo. Or the base game. Yeah, good job for Budget Aquaman. 435 views. Heartbound, they pushed it back by 2 to 3 years. Yeah, I'm hearing some kind of, I don't know. It's not exactly disappointing for me. There's a game called Stormgate, which is an RTS. I guess it's free to play. The reviews are all mixed right now. It's, yeah, 53% positive. That's not very good. And I really, really like watching Euthermal play StarCraft 2. He is a very skilled player and a skilled commentator as he's playing. And he tried Stormgate, and he played for, I'm just going to make up a number, like maybe 5 games. And he's like, I don't like this game, and here's why. And apparently his chat convinced him, like, you should play more before you make that conclusion. So he set out to play 100 games of it, and he didn't make it that far. He did 50 games, and then he's like, okay, I've done enough. I give up. Here's why I don't like this. And if you just look at the game from the screenshots and everything, it's like, yeah, this looks pretty good. It looks kind of like StarCraft. But I watched him play the games, and they're done in like 6 minutes or something, and it doesn't look like it's very strategic. I don't know. Anyway, I see enough games that are sort of in this boat where they look like they're going to be successful, and then for whatever reason, reviews don't reflect that, or the player base doesn't reflect that, or they just get canceled after some amount of time. So I actually don't know about Heartbound. But yeah, I mean, I wish all the game devs the best. I hope people find success doing this stuff, because I think the odds are stacked against you from the get-go. Pretty dope that YouTubers are playing it. YouTubers are playing it though because I'm typically reaching out. There are maybe like 5 YouTubers who played without me reaching out. Actually, that's not true. Maybe it's more like 10 at this point. But I've sent probably more than 100 emails at this point. And I'll probably send some more this weekend. And I think the process has been really illuminating for me. I want to make a video at some point about, hey, here's what I learned from marketing. And I will probably add nothing new to the collective knowledge out there. But I think it will appeal to the neurotic people like me who are like, here's why I'm bad at marketing, or here's why I can't get over that hump. And what I needed was for someone to hold my hand, and that someone was Brainoid Games. I was like, hey, you had some success marketing. How did you do it? And they gave me just like a really simple marketing 101. And it was like, oh, I sent emails to YouTubers, and here's how I found the YouTubers, and here's what the email looked like. And I think my response rate has actually been pretty good. So let me see how many people I emailed. I have emailed everyone here that doesn't say reject or NA. So I have emailed, yeah, I've emailed 110 people. And the number of people I've heard back from, 45. That's pretty good. And then the number of people who made a video was 26. That's actually not entirely true. These numbers are fudged a little bit because the number of people who made videos, I didn't necessarily email all of them. Some people just made videos. But that's a pretty good success rate. And I think it's largely due to I customized every single email, which is why I only sent like 100. And I mostly emailed smaller YouTubers. And they're more likely to accept. So yeah, I read about some people's response rates online, and they're like, oh, I got 5 videos made when I sent 100 emails, and that's still good. Review bomb because people decided he was no longer flavor of the month. Feel bad for him personally, but I'm sure he'll be okay. Oh, Harpound is Pirate Software's game? Okay. I think a lot of reviews were some drama regarding it. Oh, wait. Oh, is this the game where he was working with Ludwig? Is that correct? And then he had to bow out? I remember reading something about this, but I don't know about the game itself. And yeah, Wendy, I've heard you say this before. I do wonder how much it would be different from reaching out to influencers myself. And then I also wonder, is it better to do it before? Is it hurtful to do it after a launch? Okay, I should probably get going. How long have I been streaming for today? Almost 6 hours. I didn't take, I took one break while I was streaming. Okie dokie. Let's go find someone to raid. I am probably not going to stick around. So yeah, let's raid Fail to Survive. Where is Fail to Survive? There he is. Okay, so just a quick reminder, I will probably not be streaming maybe until like a week and a half from today. I don't know how long. I'm going to take an indefinite break. It's not going to be super long. Modify Twitch schedule. But yeah, I got to take some time off and just kind of recoup after all the challenge mode work I've been doing. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Wendy, I will check out that message you just sent, but in a little bit. And I will see you all when I see you. If you'd like to stay up to date, and I'll probably post about it on Discord, I've got the link there. So yeah, thanks for watching. I got something in my eye. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good rest of your week.